Brought to you by...
Imagine committing an action so horrific that there is no coming back from it. Violently killing the person you love most in the world. And what's worse, having no control over yourself while you did it. Working your strings like a marionette. Hello friends, and welcome back to ETF. Today we return to the work of a filmmaker that I have followed for many years. Brandon Christensen immerses us into a story that centers around a supernatural entity known as the PUPPETMAN, who has the ability to control and manipulate people like marionettes. As a group of friends become entangled in the sinister game, they must confront their deepest fears and unravel the mystery behind this malevolent force in order to survive. The film opens with a chilling sequence of violence, a moment that sets the tone for everything that follows in our protagonist Michael's life. We quickly discover that she's trying to escape from a dark force that seems to control her every move. As her friends attempt to help her, they soon realize that the PUPPETMAN is not just a figment of her imagination, but a real and deadly threat. The narrative weaves through Michael's struggle with her own sanity and the efforts of her friends to save her. The tension escalates as the PUPPETMAN begins to manipulate not just Michael, but everyone around her, turning them against one another in a deadly game of survival. Alison Gorski delivers a pretty compelling performance as Michael, capturing the character's vulnerability and resilience. Her portrayal of a young woman tormented by an unseen force is both convincing and emotionally engaging. Christensen's direction effectively creates a haunting and suspenseful atmosphere. The film's pacing is well balanced, with moments of intense horror immersed with quieter, more reflective scenes that build characters' depth and backstory. The cinematography by Brad Rushing utilizes shadows and lighting to enhance the eerie and unsettling mood. Christensen's visual style has never been anything stand out, but that's not why I keep returning to his work to begin with. Don't get me wrong, his films look amazing, but it's his effective exploration of psychological themes that keeps me coming back. The visual effects used to depict the PUPPETMAN's manipulations are subtle yet effective, adding to the film's overall sense of dread. The score, composed by Jean-Paul Wall, complements the film's dark and suspenseful tone. The music intensifies during moments of high tension, and adds an additional layer of unease to the viewing experience, accompanied by the sound design, which is equally impressive, with carefully crafted audio effects that heighten the horror and bring the PUPPETMAN's manipulative presence to life. One of the central psychological themes in the PUPPETMAN is the loss of control. The PUPPETMAN entity's ability to manipulate and control individuals reflects the fear of losing autonomy. This theme is explored through the character of Michael, whose actions are no longer her own. The PUPPETMAN becomes a symbol of external forces that can dominate one's will, leading to feelings of helplessness and terror. The character's struggle to regain control of their actions and minds serves as a metaphor for the broader human experience of battling against overpowering influences. The film delves into the psychological implications of manipulation and the erosion of trust. As the PUPPETMAN manipulates the characters, it creates an atmosphere of paranoia and suspicion. Friends and loved ones become potential threats, and the line between ally and enemy blurs. This mistrust heightens the psychological tension, as characters must navigate their relationships while under the influence of the PUPPETMAN's control. The constant uncertainty about who is being controlled and who is acting of their own free will adds a layer of psychological complexity to the narrative. Fear, of course, is a fundamental psychological element woven throughout this story. It effectively uses fear of the unknown and the unseen to create a sense of dread. The puppet man's presence is often implied rather than shown, allowing the audience's imagination to amplify the horror. This technique taps into the primal fear of the unseen and the uncontrollable, making the threat feel omnipresent and inescapable. The character's anxiety about when and how the puppet man will strike next mirrors the audience's growing unease, creating a shared psychological experience of fear. The puppet man itself also serves as a metaphor for the character's inner demons and unresolved trauma. Michael's struggle with the puppet man can be seen as a manifestation of her internal battles. The entity's control forces her to confront parts of herself that she has been suppressing and denying. The film utilizes the supernatural horror of the puppet man to explore psychological horror, where the true terror lies within the characters' minds and pasts. This dual-layered approach adds depth to the story, making the horror more personal and resonant. Psychological horror often relies on the powers of suggestion, and the puppet man utilizes this to great effect. The film suggests more than it shows, leaving much to the viewer's imagination. This technique engages the audience's mind, prompting them to fill in the blanks with their own fears and anxieties. By not fully revealing the puppet man or explaining its origins, the film maintains an air of mystery that keeps the psychological tension at a high. The unknown becomes a breeding ground for fear, making the horror feel more pervasive and insidious. Throughout the film, characters undergo significant psychological transformations. The trauma and fear that they experience at the hands of the puppet man force them to confront their own identities and moral boundaries. These transformations highlight the psychological cost of enduring such horror and the resilience required to overcome it. Michael's journey in particular is marked by a shift from victimhood to empowerment, as she grapples with the puppet man's influence and fights to reclaim her autonomy. The one reservation I have with this film is the execution of its twist. What we are meant to believe is that the entity in this film is one that takes possession of the bodies of its victims, causing them to do unspeakable things. However, very early on, I found myself exploring the idea that it's not just something that is randomly taking control of people, but one that has attached itself to Michael and is isolating her, maybe even protecting her for reasons that are not yet clear. I equate this to a film like Smile in that way. As the film went on, it seemed that each time Michael became angry enough with someone, the entity's control over another would manifest, like a dormant superpower. It reminded me of the way you see telekinesis manifest in films like Carrie or even Stranger Things. When the plot inevitably took us in that direction, albeit not in the way that I had originally expected, I found myself wishing that the cues throughout the film had been far more subtle. For me, this aspect took the Michael character and turned her into what could basically be described as the villain of the story. It made her ultimately unlikable in many ways. However, I guess you could consider her to be a tragic villain, one that is forced into being a monster by circumstance. This one kind of took a turn, like James Wan's Malignant in many ways. I do have to give him that, given the nature of the Puppet Man abilities, it does make for some wildly interesting kill scenes. Like much of Christensen's previous work, the Puppet Man excels in its exploration of psychological horror, using themes of control, manipulation, fear, and inner demons to create a deeply unsettling experience. By focusing on the psychological impact of the supernatural events, the film transcends typical horror tropes, and offers a thought-provoking examination of the human psyche. This psychological depth, combined with the film's eerie atmosphere and strong performances, makes The Puppet Man a standout in the genre. That's going to be all for now. If you're interested in this film, I urge you to check it out for yourself and formulate your own thoughts and opinions about it. I hope you come share those thoughts in the comments. let me know if there are any movies that you would like to see discussed on this channel. I always love to hear from you guys, and I do my best to try and respond to everyone. As always, I have put a link down in the description to a physical copy of the film, if one exists, so that you can add it to your collection. Using that link helps out the channel, and that is always appreciated. Furthermore, if you like the video, I urge you to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't already. I know many of you watching aren't yet subscribed, so help support the channel. Subscribe. If you'd like to go the extra mile and support the channel even more, we do have a Patreon. And if you sign up for our Rated R tier level, you can get yourself access to the ETF Digital Archive. We get a lot of compliments about the VHS collection that you guys see in the background of almost all of our videos. Well, we have been hard at work slowly digitizing that collection and creating a place where we can share it with all of you. Thanks to the help of the Plex platform, one of this channel's sponsors, we can now do just that. This is our way of doing our part to help preserve that gritty, nostalgic VHS look and feeling before it's gone forever. So as a special thank you for becoming a Rated R tier member, you will be added to our ETF Archive Plex server, so that you can stream our VHS collection from anywhere at any time. It's basically like having a streaming service for VHS, which I think is pretty cool. We also have a Mercari store, where you can go and get yourself a little piece of the ETF archive. While collecting VHS, Blu-rays, and DVDs over many years, we wind up with lots of duplicates, and we unfortunately can't store them all. So on our Mercari shop, we have those for sale. Purchasing those not only expands your collection, but makes room for us to expand ours. All the links for everything are down in the description. Until next time, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.